And welcome to another episode of 50 Shades in Grey. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening. Now, a recent podcast that I did was all about how modern relationships, dating has changed so much, how the landscape has changed. And that sparked a lot of really interesting conversation. But what I found was 98% of the conversation was coming from women who were putting across their points of view. And so one of my first questions is, where are all the men? You know, is it a case of they just can't be bothered to have these conversations, guys? Or is it a case of we don't want to be honest about our feelings in case we're judged for them, maybe? And there was one brave guy that came on and put his point of view across. Now, when it's someone's point of view, it's their point of view. So you can disagree with it, but you can't shoot them down for it, because if that's what they believe, then that's what they believe. Everyone is different in this world, and that's how it gets on so incredibly well, I guess. But there was no other men coming forward. And I spoke to someone else who runs a dating agency, actually. And she was saying, you know, in midlife, sort of 40 plus especially, loads of women now, loads of women becoming single, but no guys. Now, they're not splitting up from sort of from no one, these people that are married. So there must be guys out there from these relationships that are finding themselves single. Or is it that guys are so needy that they need to get someone else, or they get someone lined up before they leave? I don't think that's the case at all. It just seems that they're not putting themselves forward on dating sites. Now, when I've been on dating sites in previous years, obviously I only ever looked at the women, but you kind of think that, well, it must be 50-50, right? I'm guessing that the population in the world may be slightly in favour of one sex or the other, but it's got to be around the same amount. So you would imagine the percentages of single people at certain ages are roughly the same. Unless all the guys are dying off, obviously, but I don't think that's the case. I just wonder, guys, where are we? You know, I'd love to hear your opinions on some of these things. And also, there are lots of women that are sort of calling guys out on from the show and saying sort of, you know, we're doing this, we're doing that. It's your chance to have your say. So, guys, where are you? I need to hear from you. Anyway, so moving on from that, there was lots of conversations I had around relationships this week. And one of the things that I realised is, yes, the landscape has changed, you know, dramatically with the introduction of dating sites and singles nights, and speed dating's made a resurgence now. So these things have, maybe changed dating, but has how we behave changed that much? And I'm talking about our actual human behaviour, because the conversation that I was having with someone the other day, there were so many buzzwords involved in it. I started to get a headache. I'll be honest, I didn't know what two or three of them actually were anyway. So I thought, why not do that? So we're going to look today at all the buzzwords that are around relationships, and we're going to delve into a couple. And I'm going to take these off of our old friend ChatGPT and see what we're coming up with. So the first one it comes up with, and this is in modern dating, kind of modern dating slang. So the first one is ghosting. Now, I think we're all really familiar with ghosting now, aren't we? It's when someone just goes missing. You know, hasn't that been happening the whole time? Long ago, when you used to like walk a mile to the phone box and leave a message with an angry dad or an angry mum, in the hope that the girl or the boy that you were phoning might actually get this message that's probably either been forgotten or written on a scrap bit of paper that, has then been thrown away, the dog's eaten. So I'm baffled how we ever actually got to meet people when we were younger by phone. But I think that's been happening the whole time. And people say, "No, I'm not in." You can hear them whispering, "They're not in." And when their mum or dad says they said they're not in, so kind of always give away that one. So I think ghosting has always carried on. We've just given it a fancy name, and I think that's the case with a lot of these. So the next one was breadcrumbing. This was new to me, the breadcrumbing one. So it's basically, the definition is giving someone just enough attention to keep them interested, but with no intention of commitment. Yeah, I'm not sure about that, because that's always gone on anyway. And that's just when people may be interested in you, but the chances are they've got something better going on in the background. And it's a safety net. We always used to call it a safety net. It was like, well, I'm going to gamble on this, but if that doesn't work, I know that this guy, this girl, they're definitely going to be around. So I can leave them over there for a little bit while I chance my arm on this one that may be just a bit out of my league, but I might get lucky. So I think that's always gone on, and that's just a bit of a safety net. And I think previously, especially when we're younger, we've all been a little bit guilty of that, because when things get too easy sometimes and too available, again, that's not always attractive. So it's that it's there if you can go back to it. Next one. Benching. It's quite straightforward. Keeping someone as a backup while exploring other options. I think basically that's what breadcrumbing does anyway. So I think those two are exactly the same in terms of you'll just give someone enough attention, you'll keep them on the bench, and then you'll get over there. If everything else fails, you'll go back to that one. Or always called a booty call. Why do you think booty calls happened? It was probably because people thought, well, I know that person's there no matter what, and if everything goes wrong on my night, then I've always got a booty call. I can go around and see him, her, whoever it may be. Zombieing. This was a new one on me. This is really good. So this is when someone who ghosted you resurfaces like nothing happened. Zombieing. Yeah, I don't think in the history of dating I've ever heard anyone use the word they're zombieing me. They've zombie, because most of the time, if someone's disappeared and they come back, you kind of know what's going on, but you sort of think, well, if I've got nothing going on, I might as well see what's happened. And they can give you the worst excuses in the world sometimes, and then it's kind of your decision whether you go yes or no. I mean, I've heard some corkers in my time from people going out and being like sort of drugged and ended up in hospital, and then you don't hear from them for 2 or 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden they say, "Oh, I'm back again." Yeah, I mean, I learned very early that once someone messages you back once, just cut it there, just call it a day there, because it's only going to be that way going forward. And 9 times out of 10, they'll be doing the benching or breadcrumbing or whatever it may be at another time. Orbiting is staying in someone's digital, oh good grief, staying in someone's digital orbit like stories post without engaging directly. Now, this is the whole sort of social media thing, which I've been completely new to. I never, ever did social media. Absolutely never. And obviously, I've got into it over the last couple of years, and now use it to promote the podcast. And I, from the show, picked up a few followers, and I've actually been enjoying it and engaging with people, and people asking you opinions and asking you for advice. And I think if you can help people in this life, why not? So it's where you split up with someone, and then all of a sudden you're changing your profile pictures to make a statement in the hope that you think, oh, maybe they'll see this profile picture and think, oh, what's going on there? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. It probably works in reverse a lot of the time, where the person that's just dumped you changes their profile picture, and that drives you nuts. That they're looking great, and you think, oh, what a kick in the teeth that is. So we've all been there. So I guess that's what the orbiting is. Cuffing season. No, it's not what you probably the first thing that springs to your mind, because that sprung to my mind until I read it. So the cuffing season is the time during fall or winter when people seek serious relationships. So I did a podcast on this before, and I'm going to do one again this year, I think, about Christmas dating. I think this is this cuffing season. I just think it's because there are certain times of the year where are great to be single. Summer it always seems great to be single because there's so much going on. There's lovely weather outside. You're not indoors all the time. So I think come winter with Christmas, and Christmas is a lot about family and love. And it's that time of year where I think people really feel it sometimes, that they may be missing someone in their life. So, and also I think people get holidays in, and it's with these dating sites. I remember, like, it is it's a full-time job when you're doing it, so you need a period of time where you can actually devote to it, going through it, because it drives you nuts. So cuffing season, yeah, I think it's just when people have got time to do it, but that's cuffing season. Love bombing. Okay, so the love bombing, if you haven't heard this one before, it's where it's an overwhelming someone with attention and affection early on, often manipulative. Okay, I'm going to put my hand up here. I think when I was younger, I was definitely a love bomber. but it wasn't out of manipulation. Love bombing for me is when certain people, they just get overexcited. I mean, I used to do that. I used to get massively overexcited really quickly because you'd get the endorphins and everything would rush through your body, and before you know it, in 2 dates in, you're going, "I love you," and then it's like a week after you've said it, you just think, "What? Why?" And I think it's just, for me, I just used to get carried away with the excitement of it all, and that feeling of, God, this is exciting, meeting someone. And then I think sometimes you can get just overexcited, and I know I did it a couple of times, and I do regret that, but it wasn't out of being nasty. It was just out of excitement. And then after 2 or 3 weeks, when it all calms down, then you think, actually, I can just take my breath. The other person wonders why you're not sending them flowers every day and on the phone till 2 o'clock in the morning every night, because you've kind of settled into it a bit more and relaxed because you wasn't so anxious about the whole thing to begin with. So that's bombing. So next one, a slow fade, gradually decreasing contact to end things subtly. I think we've all done that, a slow fade. Yeah, I just think that's a bit of a cold shoulder. I think that's what it basically used to be. A lot of these are just rejigged and given more fancier names, which we'll come to later actually in this podcast. But next one, a situationship. A relationship that's more of a hookup but not clearly defined as serious. I think that's a bit like friends with benefits. That's what that used to be a lot of the time, is people that you're not quite entering a relationship because you might start off as friends in the first place and you think, well, we don't want to ruin it. But for some bizarre reason, you think by sleeping with each other, that's not going to ruin it. And that happens more when you're younger, because I think when you're younger, controlling your sexual urges is very difficult. So I think that situationship has probably come from that. It's a bit like friends with benefits. A hard launch, soft launch. Oh, good grief, this one kills me. Particularly revealing your partner online, either subtly, that's a soft launch, or obviously hard. Now, I had to ask someone about this. So they said to me, so not, like, the example of a soft launch is when you might just put a picture of your hands together without seeing their face. So like you're just dating an arm or something like that. And that's oh, he's with someone, she's with a guy, she's with the girl, he's with the guy, whatever it may be. And then, so that's your soft launch. The hard launch is when you attach the head, I guess, and then, that's your hard launch of it. Is anyone that bothered, really? I know, like, celebrities, we might be, wondering who's with who for, past a couple of minutes of the day, but anyone else, are we that fussed? And going back to I guess the equivalent of it is the WhatsApp again. I'll go back to WhatsApp when we used to use WhatsApp a lot more. Well, then all of a sudden you'll see that a picture of a guy that they've suddenly put this new girl on there, or a girl that suddenly put this new guy on there, or a guy with a guy, a girl with a girl, whichever your orientation. And it's like, they're with someone. They've met someone new. And that always sucked if you were the last person. I always felt bad about that. But I know you're always under pressure from the person you're with going, well, you haven't had me on your Instagram or your WhatsApp. You need to show people you've got to go, like a warning sign. Let's put a picture of your girlfriend or boyfriend on there for a warning sign to all the other people that may be out there to sort of stay away, they're with someone. Yeah, that's never stopped anyone anyway. So, thirst trap, a sexy photo or post intended to get attention or validation. That's kind of social media, isn't it? I mean, everything we do, I know, like, everything that I put on, I'm going to be honest, there's nothing sexy about. Please don't tell me there's nothing sexy about. I already know this. It's all about trying to get attention or validation in some way, because you're trying to capture people's attention. That's just social media, I think. I think girls use social media very well to hook guys in. Guys are simple creatures. Let's be honest. It doesn't take a lot, does it? Show a guy cleavage, and they're going to watch it for another 5 seconds more than something else that they're swiping down. So we're quite simple creatures, guys, and I'm sure women know this. So yeah, I'm not buying that, because I think social media is the basis of social media is a lot of the time you are trying to get attention and validation. Riz, slang for charisma, especially in flirting. He's got mad riz. Oh, don't even know where to go with that. I'm skipping that altogether because there's so many words for charisma, charm, whatever it may be. Yeah, we don't need riz. It's not right. Anyway, so we're going on now to the emotional psychological buzzwords that you'll see on a lot of podcasts and a lot of clips that come up. And they're about attachment styles as well. So attachment styles, basically, for you all to know, which you probably do already, I'm sure, because you're hearing this stuff all the time, is patterns of bonding in relationships: anxious, avoidant, secure. So attachment style is basically how you attach to people. It's easy, your style of attachment. And I think we go through different trends in ourselves depending on how we're feeling at the time, your attachment. So sometimes, you'll attract people to you that have got certain attachment styles as well, based on your own character. Emotional availability. So it's being open to giving and receiving emotional connection. Now, emotional availability for me as a guy is based upon how much you like the person in the beginning. Saying that, when I came out of a relationship a good few years ago, I went into dating way too soon because I was trying to layer it. So basically, what I mean by that is I got really hurt in a relationship, and my mate described it as a trifle. He said, "So what you've got to do is put like custard, jelly, blancmange, anything you can, fingers, all on top of this thing at the bottom, so that eventually you just forget about it." And I've got to say that works to a degree. But I tried to date. The trouble is, you can hurt people along the way. And I tried to date a couple of really lovely women that I'm sure if I'd have met later on in life, it would have worked out great for me. Maybe not for them. They might have been in a different place themselves by that stage. But I wasn't ready to date. So I think that's emotional availability. But I think most people are emotional and available as well. I really do. I just think it depends upon how much they like the person to how much they're going to be emotionally available. Right, this one I didn't know. I'd heard of it loads, and I'd always nodded at people, as you do. Like, it's like when people give you directions, you kind of nod, think, going, "Yeah, I'm listening," and then you don't. You stop listening as soon as I say you go up there. Anyway, gaslighting. So what gaslighting is, because I didn't know this, I'd heard of it, was manipulating someone into questioning their own reality or sanity. I'm going to say, if someone makes you question your own reality or sanity, then that's a problem for you anyway, because you've got to be you've got to know yourself better to think, well, okay, I will look at my behavior, but once I've looked at it, I'm not going to question it anymore, because there's sometimes, and I think we all do this, and I know I do it, that I'll do something and someone will tell me something and I'll go away and I'll let it sink in, and I think, do you know what, maybe they're right. So I don't think that's always gaslighting. I think that sometimes it's just that people will argue their corner. We all argue our corner, and we all think we're right. No one is the villain in their own story, are they? So we all think we're right. So I think there are a few things about gaslighting that I just think we use it too frequently, and I'm going to come to that in a minute. Boundaries we know about: emotional, physical, mental limits we set in relationships, and we've all got boundaries wherever they may be. Codependency, a relationship dynamic where one partner enables the other's dysfunctions. Yeah, but that could work. One partner fitting into another's dysfunctions may work. So that could be a good thing. It doesn't need to be a bad thing. Love language, and I've done something on this before, love language, the way a person expresses and receives love: words, touch, acts, gifts, time. Now, I do think this is true. I know people, for me, I'm very much time, touch, and words, not so much on sort of gifts, but on acts as well. But I am big on sort of time. So I know that if I meet people that don't do that, then I pick up on that quite quickly. So, and I'm quite a tactile person. I'm quite touchy feely. So I like someone that's affectionate as well. So I do get the love language thing. Trauma bonding, emotional attachment formed from cycles of abuse, reconciliation. So let's say you're a recovering addict of something and you meet a recovering addict. That could be really bad, I guess, or it could be really good, because you both might be support for each other. I think what we can do very easily in relationships here is that we can look at things when they don't work out, and we can come up with 101 reasons why they've gone wrong, and we can come up with just as many words to put blame onto the other person and saying they're a narcissist. And I've got a theory, I'm going to give it to you. If you've been in relationships where you've met three of the same character types, then the problems probably about you as well, not just about them. When someone tells you, oh, the last five guys I met, the last three guys I met, they've all been narcissists. Like there has got to be something that you're doing as well, because they can't all be narcissists, surely. Otherwise, you're a very unlucky person. Like the world is not full of narcissists. I think, like anything else, there is a spectrum to everything. And I think somewhere we have all got behaviours that are on this spectrum. So I think we all have when you look at what traits a narcissist has. But we shouldn't just throw it around and throw it at people like, yeah, you're a narcissist, because like there are proper narcissists out there, and that makes it easier for them. That makes them feel better, because these proper narcissists are having a great time now because they feel like they're in good company, because everyone's been called a narcissist and they're starting to blend in with everyone. So we've got to be careful how much we throw these words around. There can be narcissistic traits in people for sure, but I think we've all got those. You know, I think when you look at what traits they are, and they could be watered down versions. Let's say jealousy. You know, you can get someone that's extremely jealous, where they're going to turn up on your door and take your phone and look through every message. Or you might just get someone that when you talk to someone that they don't know, just like, you know, they're going to have like, get annoyed at you for the next hour and give you a bit of a cold shoulder. Now, one's not as bad as the other, but they're both on the spectrum of jealousy. It depends what degree. So we need to be careful about all these words that, you know, we've just gone through that we're throwing around, because it's, you know, we can blame everyone else. And I, you know, take it from a guy that spent 5-6 years wasting time, but taking 5-6 years to get over a situation that was quite simple, you know, and if I'd have looked at it clearer, it would have been a lot easier for me to get over that far quicker, because it wasn't about the other person. It was about me, and it was about me just letting go. And I think that's an analogy that I would use. I look at a lot of these great podcasts that are on here about people giving advice, and, you know, as we all try to do, because we're all trying to help each other, but they're like sort of long stories of, you know, justifying everything else that happened. You know, you know, they were this and they were that, and they gaslighted you, and then they ghosted you, and this was just shortly after love bombing you, and then they started doing that zombieing thing where they came back. And listen, if that's going to make you feel better, using all these words and giving a label to it, because that's what we want to do. We want to label someone's actions when it could be the bottom line. And for me, I'll always remember this line. It was, they wasn't happy, whatever it may be. And once they say that to you, and once you hear that, and when I say hear it, you know, not just let the words go in. Once you realise they weren't happy, and they weren't happy with you, or they weren't happy with me, then you just have to let it go, because you can't hold someone back that's not happy. Listen, if it's going to help you, give them labels, gaslighting, put all of them, they're a narcissist, they're this, they're that, she was that, and he was that, and he was that, and, you know, whatever it may be, if that's going to help you, then great. But there are some times that you can, and I'll use this analogy before I go, you can stand on an edge of a cliff that you think you want to jump off of, and you want to jump off because you want to do it for yourself, because you want to take that leap, and you can talk about jumping off until you're blue in the face, but the bottom line is, guys, you just got to jump sometimes, because that's all it is. You can talk about it for as long as you want, and you can talk about jumping and the labels, where you're going to jump and what you're going to do, and, you know, I'm going to run at this, and you can do all that stuff, but you're still not jumping. Sometimes you just have to jump and take a leap of faith. Okay, listen, thank you for watching again. I hope and you've enjoyed today, because it's just about the love language that we use and the labels that we tend to be giving everything now. And then, you know, like I said, we spoke at the end about giving everything labels. Sometimes I'm not sure if it's helping us with this dating. I think it's just making things more complicated. And I don't think as human beings, have we changed that much? I know the landscape of dating has changed immensely, but as people, have we changed that much of our needs and our wants? Or is just everything more accessible now because there's more of it out there? That, we can see more girls, we can see more guys because now we can see them on, a dating site where there's reels of them, and we can just keep swiping, 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 and we can go on Instagram and see all these, fantastic looking people with, abs and bodies and legs and everything else, great hair, and we think that's what I want, and is that's what's clouded our judgment, as apart from, we only know what we see in front of us with our own eyes. But thank you for joining me. Like I say, make sure you subscribe and you follow 50 Shades in Grey, and make sure you chip in and, get in on the discussions. And guys, like I said, I want to hear from you. Where are all the guys gone? Guys, take care.